Hello.
Mr. Hudson, it's Jason again. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jason.
A lot of people have been emailing me about this Florida Maquis again is ahead of this with the dirty bomb and the connection to the Fitzgerald and the McCain.
Yep, you see now why I have a lot of respect for this man and his wife, former U.S. Army intelligence personnel.
Mm-hmm.
We've been looking at this, Jason, to vet the story, and I've got to tell you that it's right on point.
Mm-hmm.
And so what has happened, Jason, is that Indonesian militants plan to detonate a radioactive dirty bomb. As a matter of fact, I'll just is it okay? Is it okay if I just read this to the
Sure.
to the audience?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay. So, folks, not taking any credit for this, but this is put out by World News, and so here's what it says: Indonesian militants plan to detonate a radioactive dirty bomb, according to security sources, highlighting the rising ambitions of extremists to wreak destruction in the world's largest Muslim-majority nation. This is coming out of Jakarta. But experts cast doubt on their expertise, equipment, and their chances of success. The plot was foiled when police raided homes and arrested 5 suspects in Bandung, West Java last week. The sources with direct knowledge of the plot said that after the raids, police spoke of a plan to explode a chemical bomb, but provided no other details.
Mm-hmm.
The plot comes as Indonesia grapples with an influx of militants deported from other countries and the fallout from the Islamic State-led siege in the southern Philippines city of Marawi. Bear in mind, folks, the ship that hit the help me out here, Jason. I'm having a tough day.
McCain, the Fitzgerald.
The Fitzgerald. That ship was registered out of the Philippines.
Really?
Yep. The 3 counterterrorism sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, they said that these militants, I hate using that term, these terrorists, these Muslim terrorists, had hoped to transform a low-grade radioactive material. That material is known as thorium, by the way, thorium-232. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to turn that thorium by purifying it into a uranium-233.
Mm-hmm.
So the highly radioactive uranium would be combined with the powerful homemade explosive, and then it would create basically a dirty nuclear bomb.
Right.
So it goes on to say, in fact, the device would be at best a radiological dispersal device,
right,
or a dirty bomb, and that would spray that radioactive material into the atmosphere when the bomb would explode.
Still an environmental disaster.
No doubt about it. For years and years and years. I mean, just no doubt about it.
Yeah.
A spokesman for Indonesia's National Police, Inspector General Setio Wasito, declined to confirm, and he declined to deny the plot to construct the device. Now, that makes sense. They would say that. They're not going to say one way or the other.
Yeah.
But what he did say is, he said, if this bomb had been finished, it would have had more destructive impact than the bomb made from another bomb that they had made called the Mother of Satan. He went on to say that it could burn anything, which is true. It could literally melt steel, and it would make it hard for people to breathe, and it would be just a complete ecological disaster.
Right.
So now what people don't realize is that thorium-232 can be transformed into uranium-233. There's a process that can be used. The unfortunate thing here is that we think that these terrorists don't have any scientists of their own, well, they've got money, and so they can hire the scientists that they need.
Right.
So in their own manual, when they rated this and prevented it, they found an instructional manual that said that 232 could be converted to 233 by using an X-ray machine or a microwave machine that had been enhanced.
Like a microwave oven?
I beg your pardon?
Like a microwave oven?
I don't know about a microwave oven, but what they're saying is that in a kind of a primitive way, using, which would be extremely dangerous. Probably the people that would work on this would probably become contaminated themselves and die. But see, what people don't understand, Jason, is that these Muslim terrorists, to them, death for the cause is a good thing for them.
Right.
So then it goes on and says, then there's some controversy, and he says, no, you can't cook 232 to make 233 in a microwave. If you could, it would have a painful and rapid death. Our sources are saying it can be done, but the people that would do it would die as a result. So then you got to ask yourself, well, how many Muslim terrorists would be willing to die for the cause?
Right.
Well, common sense tells us they're exploding bombs all the time by strapping them to their bodies, right?
Right.
So it goes on to say that in Indonesia has suffered a series of mostly small attacks by these terrorists. Actually says extremists, but over the past 18 months. And Indonesian terrorism analyst Rakyan Adebrata fears that these militants have been inspired by the events in Marawi, where the ISIS fighters continue to occupy part of the city despite of a 3-month offensive by Philippine forces to retake it. So now we've got a battle taking place in the Philippines with ISIS fighters that the mainstream media has not mentioned one stinking thing about.
It's quite amazing.
It is. So what exactly does this mean in regards to what we've been talking about? We obviously have a problem with worldwide shipping. We obviously have a problem with shipping containers. We have a problem with our ports. We have a problem with the shipping companies, whether it's Maersk or any of the others, those that are operating legitimately and those that are operating using what they call flags of convenience, changing the ID numbers on the ships, and those that are out there. What did we say earlier? 2.2 million ships just in and around Europe. So now we've got these ghost ships, what I'm going to call ghost ships that are operating, that are out there transporting goods all over the world. And again, I ask the question, why would any legitimate port that takes its own security and national security, in thinking of it as important, why would they let any of these ghost ships to deliver anything?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have to ask yourself, well, if they're not coming into the port, then they're doing their dirty deeds offshore. Well, most countries have roughly a 200 miles of international waters, right? Each country. So the United States says, well, if you're operating, if your ship, if you bring it in within 200 miles, then our Coast Guard can take a look at you. Well, then the question is, are we?
Mr. Hudson, I don't know if you recall, but Joe Napoli did some reporting on what seemed to be a kind of impromptu rendezvous between the Maersk Memphis and the Anna Maersk shortly after the whole incident in the port of Charleston.
Right. Right.
I mean, of course, we've had numerous people call both George and myself conspiracy theorists and, try to characterize what happened that day as calling it a bomb hoax or a bomb threat or whatever. But it
Right.
certainly seems as the more time passes and the more evidence mounts, what we were saying was accurate. There was clear and present danger, and there was sufficient information to, prompt us to contact.
Whether there was, here's the thing. We knew that there was a problem with world shipping. And we also knew, and others know, that there's been a problem with Maersk Shipping and other shipping companies.
Mm-hmm.
The Memphis was a ship of interest. Mm-hmm. And as a result of the Memphis Maersk being pinpointed publicly, then that began a series of unexplainable actions between the Memphis and the Anna Maersk.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Now, after the Memphis left Charleston, if you recall, we followed that ship because we knew that according to Maersk Shipping, that ship was going to be making its way to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And we noticed that when it left and got down around the Florida Keys, we noticed that ship, all of a sudden, we didn't realize what it was doing at the time, but we noticed that the reporting of the ship was indicating that it was traveling at 14 knots in a particular direction. As we began to monitor that ship and follow it, we noticed that the ship remained in the same position for several hours, yet it was saying it was still traveling at 14 knots. What we didn't realize is that ship had turned its AIS system off.
Uh-huh. Right.
And we noticed on 3 occasions, once we got once we got an update, and we were able to follow the ship to Texas, mm-hmm. we noticed that there were at least 3 occasions when that ship had turned its AIS system off, and we noticed that the direction of its travel changed. So the question then becomes, well, what did they do when they were in the Gulf of Mexico?
It's an interesting question for sure.
Right. We don't know what that is or what they did. But what we do know since then is that we now know, based on other information and getting a better understanding of what's taking place with the shipping of the world, we now can say, hey, here's evidence that indicates that these ships are meeting each other, transferring whatever it is they transfer from one ship to another. Mm-hmm. They're turning off their AIS systems to do it and then turning them back on. There is worldwide illegal trade taking place amongst these shipping vessels.
It seems clear, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say.
I don't either. What I do know is this. The work that Florida Maquis is doing is excellent work. And hopefully Crowdsource is going to be able to connect with these guys.
Yeah.
And work together.
Mm-hmm.
And we do know now that, or have reason to believe that these ships, whoever's commanding these ships and whoever the crew is on these ships, they are not our friends.
Mm-hmm.
They are not our friends in all cases.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's reason to believe that these ships work their way in close to a naval vessel and then ram it. We know that there's a possibility that the Chinese are involved with an exotic weapon. We know that the Russians also have that exotic weapon. I believe that we are back into a Cold War scenario that nobody is talking about.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring you up to date on this. I'm glad that I'm glad that you gave a call on this. This was something that we were looking at feverishly because it was new to us. And to the audience, I might say, no, we don't know all things. And if you come across somebody who does, I would strongly recommend you don't pay any attention to them. Sometimes we're ahead of the ball, sometimes we're behind it. But in either case, we're playing ball, right?
Yeah, yeah. We're going to have to keep our eyes on this. This is definitely developing news that's, I mean, it's just like September 11th in certain ways. Before commercial jetliners crash into a plane, the notion of it happening seems unthinkable. So just like in May or June, when Crowdsource the Truth reported that there's the potential for a dirty bomb and the Coast Guard should be looking at that, many people called that ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous now, is it?
No. My belief keeps getting stronger that through George's research, the input from your groups, and the effort that everyone in the crowdsourced community is making, we may well have averted a catastrophic national emergency.
Well, the main thing was not so much that there was a dirty bomb on the Memphis. I don't want to really go into that because it would be it might. I don't know what to say there.
Too much speculation.
It was a ship of interest.
Right.
I'm going to leave it at that. But the thing of it is that we live in a very dangerous world. The individuals representing us are not making it clear to us as to how dangerous this world is getting. The mainstream news media, they're certainly not doing it. They're in fairy tale land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our concern and my concern is that when is somebody going to start acting responsibly?
Right.
We have 330 million people in America. We have husbands and wives and sons and daughters and children and grandchildren. My God, when is somebody going to stand up and say we must, at all costs, protect this nation? Is that not what they swore to do?
Mm-hmm.
To uphold the Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic,
right,
and to protect the protect the people of this nation. Oh my Lord! That we have got to get off of this racist bullcrap and start saying, all lives matter and Americans matter. We've got to start thinking of ourselves as a unified nation, regardless of color, religion, or creed. We have to, or we're doomed. So I'll let you go. I don't want to take up a lot of time here, but there we go. I guess we have another snippet of a Hudson report, and with that, this is Rock out.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson.